From Newsweek, Elon Musk threatens Pentagon leakers after China war story. I don't know if you guys heard about this. Elon Musk threatened Pentagon staff who leaked what he called false information to the New York Times over a story saying he will receive a briefing about American military plans for any potential war with China. Are you noticing anything kind of odd about it? Hold on a second. Quote, the New York Times is pure propaganda. Musk posted on X platform in the early hours Friday morning. Quote, also, I look forward to the prosecutions of those at the Pentagon who are leaking malicious false information to the New York Times. They will be found. Here's what's crazy. They're just mad that Elon Musk potentially got briefed. They're not particularly concerned about war with China. They're just PO'd that Elon Musk is in the room. It's just like, but a war with a superpower doesn't really bug you. That's how you know they are suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. Musk is a close political ally of the U.S. President Donald Trump and is spearheading the Department of Government Efficiency, whose access to and power over various federal departments is facing multiple legal challenges in the courts. This false narrative that Elon Musk has this, meticulous, this overwhelming power it just persists as if somehow he can actually go fire people. He can't. He can't subpoena anyone. You know what he's doing? He's just pointing out fraud, waste, and abuse. That is the long and the short of it. So they keep pushing this narrative, which, by the way, is leading to what's happening with Tesla. These terrorist acts, which is it's really fascinating to me. The billionaire owner of Tesla and SpaceX also has a business interest in China. Trump also rejected the Times report, which cited anonymous U.S. officials, because that's where it all starts. An anonymous source. You know how many times there were reports about Russia from anonymous sources? I mean, it was the brand new standard for journalism. An anonymous source says, an anonymous source, it is very, very likely, and if true, that they would always leave that caveat. If true, this is damning. If true, the noose is tightening. If true, the walls are closing in. Trump also rejected the Times report, which cited anonymous U.S. officials. Quote, the fake news is at it again. This time, the failing New York Times. They're more concerned that Elon Musk is in the room that they are with U.S. going to war with China. Dear Lord, have mercy. Now hang on, because I don't know if you've heard about this. Hold on a second. I think this is it. Here you go. Hapless anti-Musk activist sets himself on fire after attacking South Carolina Tesla charging stations with Molotov cocktails. I would think that at some point people are going to start catching on. You're not smarter than the DOJ. You're not smarter than Kash Patel. You're not smarter than Dan Bongino. They will hunt you down. They will find you out. If, by the way, you don't out yourself with these ridiculous attacks. Hang on a second, because this is a doozy. A hapless arsonist who tried to burn down a Tesla charging station in protest at Tesla charging station in protest at President Trump and Elon Musk ended up setting himself on fire, according to authorities. Daniel Clark Pounder, 24. You just ruined your life. Burned down three EV stations in South Carolina parking lot Friday, where he scrawled F Trump and long live the Ukraine. So this is a guy who is chock full of propaganda. This is your Rachel Maddow viewer. Yes, this is the guy. You want to know where Chris Hayes is getting their audience. This is it. Good job, dude. I don't know the extent to which he burned himself, but it's over now. Unbelievable. He was seen throwing five Molotov cocktails, one of which left him on fire, according to witnesses who saw him fleeing the North Charleston lot. WCBD reported. Witnesses said, quote, that the suspect had accidentally caught their own back on fire while throwing the devices, according to the initial police report obtained by the local outlet. Clark Pounder, a mechanic from James Island, was arrested later on Friday after the police issued a public appeal to help find him. It was not clear how badly hurt he'd been by the fire. Unbelievable. Well, now your life is over. You're probably looking at a minimum 5 years in prison. You will be now known as a domestic terrorist. This will be on your record. Was it worth it? To own Elon? Was it worth it? Elon Musk probably, well, maybe after this, he knows who you are. But you didn't do anything. You didn't change anything. They're still going to do government efficiency, spot checks. They're still going to, shut down the Department of Education. They're still going to make the cuts. The only difference is when they do it, you'll be behind bars. That's the only difference. Wow, what a moron. Hang on a second. Moving right along to smarmy people.
Speaking of the left's celebration of violence, here's another soundbite. This one is still Tim Walz, but it's on Gavin Newsom's podcast Tuesday.
You got to respect people you disagree with, and you can't just dismiss people.
How do you fight it?
This notion
I think
of
I could kick most of their ass. I do think that if they wanted to. I know I can go wrong, but I don't know if we're going to fall into that place where we want to. Okay, we challenge you to a WWE fight here type of thing.
It's a natural reaction. I think it's one of the reasons we're losing so many men. And again, it's multi-ethnic. It's not just white men. We're losing them. We're losing them to these guys online. That's why I brought.
These are bad guys, though. These are bad guys.
But they exist, and we could deny they exist. They exist. Not only they exist, they persist, and they're actually influencing young kids every single day.
How do we push some of those guys back under a rock?
I think we have to first understand what their motivations are. I think we have to understand what they're actually doing. And
you don't
think
think
that's
it's racism and misogyny?
That there's everything in there, right? Like, I'm going to kick their ass. Okay, sure, Jan. These are bad guys, the online influencers. He's clearly talking about, sort of the manosphere that helped get Trump elected. They're bad. And then how do we kick them back under a rock?
How would we put them back under a rock? The typical Democrat. Silence them. There's a reason that they don't have a clear, what they call, message. And it's really, really obvious. It's very, at least it is to me. They don't have a clear message because how do you beat, we're going to close the border? We're going to close it. We're going to button up the border. How are you going to counter that? You're going to button it up more? How do you message, we're going to defeat inflation? We're going to get rid of inflation. What's your counter? We are going to increase inflation. Inflation is good. I actually I read a piece that said, no. Inflation is good for poor people. Of all of the times I've ever heard inflation being mentioned during Jimmy Carter, because that's where I first heard it. It was during his administration. It was never, ever in the positive. It was always spoken in the pejorative. It's like, how are you going to message against, well, we want to lower taxes for Americans? Well, that, they say, they're just giving the rich friends, a tax break. Right. That's exactly what they're doing. They're doing it to all the billionaires who own the businesses so that those businesses come back to America. How do you not understand that? So that the reason they don't have a message, the reason they can only attack Elon Musk and Donald Trump is because how do you outmaneuver that? Where's your attack point? We're going to close the border. They started trying to. They're deporting illegals without due process. It's like most Americans don't give a crap about giving due process to people who broke the law to get here. But that escapes them. Always, Democrats, their first mode is put them under a rock. Let's silence them. And then, of course, it's always, I think I could kick their asses. Tim, have you seen yourself? No, you can't. And all of this entire thing is, this is see, and I've mentioned this before, but it does bear repeating. Gavin Newsom is doing a massive reimagining of himself. He's had multiple people on his podcast. Not just people like Tim Walz. But I've already told you how I have a real problem with going on this podcast, particularly. In fact, I'm going to show you why I have a problem with it. And it's very, very simple, by the way. Why did you go on Gavin Newsom's podcast right after he burned down LA and you had no research? Why did you do it? Particularly Charlie Kirk. I'm amazed. He didn't push back on anything. Here. Because this is egregious to me.
So let's talk about the word Latinx. Just 2 weeks ago, here's what he said about it.
By the way, not one person ever in my office has ever used the word Latinx.
So can we finally put that to bed?
Yeah,
we
what
agree.
the, where did that even
No
go?
more Latinx, everybody.
Well, I just didn't even know where it came from. I'm like, what are people talking about?
But there was a person who used Latinx. It was actually a really important person. It was him. Right?
Yeah, that's right. And look, these aren't minor shifts. These are progressive issues that Gavin Newsom used to champion until fairly recently. And now he's not just walking away from them. He's sort of acting like they were never legitimate with that clip talking about Latinx in the first place. But let's take Latinx. We did find somebody who used it repeatedly in his office. Let's take a listen to this.
I hope we can really paint a picture in terms of our consciousness of how impactful this has been on the Latinx community. The Latinx and Black communities. You've got politicians that are banning not assault rifles, but the word Latinx. They're not even serious.
So let's talk about the word.
That's CNN. CNN showing him as an blatant liar. Now, why do you think Gavin Newsom would lie so blatantly? Number one, he must have known Charlie Kirk was not going to be able to push back. Look what he said.
Latinx. Just 2 weeks ago, here's what he said about it.
By the way, not one person ever in my office has ever used the word Latinx.
So can we finally put that to bed?
Yeah,
we agree.
where did that even
No
go?
more Latinx, everybody.
Well, I just didn't even know where it came from. I'm like, what are people talking about?
But there was.
So why didn't Charlie Kirk push back and go, yeah, you did? These are your own words. So again, I'm asking for those of you who, no, you got to understand, Stu, he's one of our greatest, content creators. He's one of our greatest, conservative voices. I don't have anything necessarily against Charlie Kirk, but if you're going to go on this guy's platform, on his podcast, and not give any pushback, why not? Same goes for Steve Bannon. Well, were you going to ask him about the fires? How did that happen, Gavin? You were supposed to have done control burns, but there's a group that actually checked, and you lied to the people there. You lied about latex or whatever they get. You are a liar. A pathological liar. If we are going to tell people that we're different, we are not status quo. All we want is the truth. But then you go on a television show or you go on a podcast like Gavin Newsom and you give him no pushback. No, you're not. You're part of the machine. You're just a cog in the machine. I don't, you tell me. Now, why do you think CNN did this? It's CNN. Why do you think they did it? Well, because they knew they could. And this is a rebranding of their own because they know they lost credibility. And so when you take a hopeful like Gavin Newsom, hey, maybe you'll get a bunch of conservatives trusting your news again. Not me, but maybe people like Charlie Kirk I'm sorry, I have a real problem with that. I don't understand it. I don't understand that. Like if you're gonna go before your political opponent, I think that you should at least be ready to ask some real hard questions, not sit there and take selfies with them. Here, look at this. Let's see here. From the Daily Wire, it's an honor. Bill Maher explains why he's going to meet with Trump. Huh. He's going to go meet with Donald Trump. Bill Maher. For those of you who don't know, he is stage 4 TDS. I mean, stage 4. But he's going to go meet with him. And I find this fascinating only because what do you think he's going to talk about? Do you think that Bill Maher is going to go there and he's not going to have any hard questions? At least in his mind, what he thinks are hard questions? Because Bill Maher is going to have to explain why all of his friends, people he lauded, RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, why did they go work for him? What's going on here? What about Russell Brand? That's as left gets. These are your friends, Bill. Liberal comedian Bill Maher said he will soon be meeting with President Donald Trump despite his criticism of the president in the past. And he doesn't care what anyone on the left thinks about it. During an upcoming episode of Club Random podcast on Sunday, Maher and his guest podcaster Andrew Schultz talked about Trump's re-election, and the host reveals that he agreed with Kid Rock's request to meet with the president at the White House. So it's going to happen. Do you think that he's going to do a Charlie Kirk and not ask any difficult questions, uncomfortable questions? I'll bet he does. Now, I'm going to be honest. Well, let me ask you, what would you do if President Biden invited you to the White House? I got to tell you, I'm telling you, I would pray about that before I even just said, oh yeah, that'd be great. I'd have to pray about that one because I don't want to be caught in the same room with him. And he's going to use it as a photo op. He's going to be taking pictures with me. It's going to be, tacit approval. I'm being honest. I don't know that I would meet him, but it is the president. It is the presidency. It is the White House, and that office deserves my respect. But I don't know that I give it to Biden. Now, you could make the argument, yeah, but still, you're just meeting with an old dude. It's not like you're meeting the president. I mean, he's not making any decisions. Particularly if I could get in a room alone with him, or there would have to be one stipulation. One stipulation, which there's no way in the world he would agree to. I want to put you, on my show but we only do it live. I'll only go there, but you got to do it live. That's like kryptonite to these people. There's no way that he agrees to that. His people would go berserk. Because I'm going to ask some tough questions. My first one will be the border. Why did you appoint Alejandro Mayorkas? Do you know what he's doing at our border? Do you know how many terror tubbies, how many Teletubbies have entered the U.S. under your watch? What are you doing about it? And then I would give them the report that I reported on this show about Mayorkas giving people who were either friends, family, or worked with Teletubbies. And did you know about it, Mr. President? Did you okay that? What about getting rid of these gang members who were taking over apartment complexes? It's only a handful of apartment complexes, but they're still taking over apartment complexes, Mr. President. What do you feel about that? Are you okay with this? Should you send in the National Guard to boot those people out of this country? Or should you just, see how it plays out? I would go, but on my terms and only on my terms. I gotta tell you, I'll give kudos to Mar for going to talk to them. And he's actually going to go. And I can see him saying, I don't give a crap what, all these other people say. But here's the thing, even with Gavin Newsom, okay? He knows Sunny Hostin, she'll moan and complain, and I can't believe. But at bottom, who do you think she's going to vote for? And do you think Gavin doesn't know that? Let's say it comes down to J.D. Vance or Gavin Newsom. Who do you think Sunny is going to vote for? She ain't going to sit it out. Of course she's going to be. Who do you think, as they rail against, by the way, that's the reason that CNN can do it. Not because they're a hard-hitting news organization. They know it's not going to do any harm. That's not going to do any harm to him. He can burn down L.A. Californians will still vote for him. I'm telling you. I once again, I'm sorry, I'm on this. These so-called conservatives. This is kind of funny. There was a time this was like when I first, really started to, read the Bible. I was like 17, and here's the thing that people would say, young people particularly, yeah, I'm going to go to that club so I can witness to people. Miraculously, they're going to witness to all the, pretty girls. funny how that always worked out. No. Just no. I'm not saying, by the way, I didn't go to these clubs, because I did, but it wasn't under the pretense of I'm going to witness to people. And maybe I'll dance with somebody. That's it. I told you guys I don't drink, so that's a no-brainer. And typically, when I went with my friends, guess who was the designated driver? Yours truly. So I tell you, man, these so-called conservatives, that give no pushback. See, I would have been fine with Charlie Kirk going on his podcast had he actually gave some pushback. But we have to leave it up to CNN to do it. I tell you, man, I got a real problem with that. From the Daily Wire, Lutnick. Trump said, if we balance the budget, no income tax on earners making less than $150,000 a year. Now, I apparently when I did a piece on this, okay, and one of the things that I said it the wrong way, but this is what I meant to say. People that are earning less than $150 a year, no income tax, period. The caveat is you got to balance the budget. Here, and so for those of you who don't think it's a real thing, hey, maybe it's a pipe dream. I don't know. But if that's your goal, I'm not mad at you about it. Look at this. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick revealed that when he asked President Donald Trump if the federal government could eliminate income tax on all Americans making less than $150,000 a year, if the Trump administration could balance the budget, Trump answered, sure. Lutnick appeared on All In podcast where he spoke about balancing the budget before speaking of Trump on the income taxes. And he's telling you, I said, hey, Mr. President, if we could balance the budget and if Doge can actually claw back $2 trillion. By the way, let me say this just as a side note. You guys remember the $5,000 that they are going to give to every taxpayer as kind of like a reward for them cleaning up the government and making it more efficient? I would say this. Give $5,000 to the people making less than 70 to 60, maybe 60 to 65,000 a year. Give the $5,000 to those people, to those taxpayers. But anyone else, just put it toward the actual deficit. What do you guys think about that? If the $5,000, if it's a thing, if it actually happens, let's say, and by the way, the trigger of that is you got to get, $2 trillion. You got to clean up at least $2 trillion, and then they're going to give X amount back to the American people. I'm perfectly fine with giving $5,000 to people making less than, let's say, $70,000 a year. Particularly in states like New York and California, where they're taxed up the yin-yang, that $5,000, that's going to go a long way. And of course, it wouldn't depend on who you voted for. But I digress. So let's say we balance the budget and eliminate taxes for people making less than $150,000 a year. That's going to be a lot. That's like 80% of America. That's a big chunk of Americans. I gotta tell you, man, you do something like that, Donald Trump, Republican Party, J.D. Vance, a shoo-in. It wouldn't even be close. But, then we have people who have no sense of self-reflection. They never learn. It's the oddest thing ever. Listen to this exchange. It doesn't make any sense.
Hear new, fresh, bold voices. That's what the American people want. And if the party doesn't do that, the party is about to be finished.
I hope that AOC, Pramila Jayapal, Greg Cesar, I hope they're the new face of the Democratic Party because Republicans will be winning elections all over the country if that is the face of the Democratic Party. Are you?
I mean, y'all
listen, a district like mine that Joe Biden won by 10 points, okay, 10 points. Kamala Harris won by half a point. Okay, I won by 6.5 points, 24,000 votes in a district that has 85,000 more Democrats than Republicans. Why?
You're right.
Because the
but you ran against a cornball candidate. You had
he was your friend.
He was not my friend.
He was your friend
You
long
had
ago.
someone running against you who was not a strong candidate. And we still
that
have,
we agree on.
We still have consultants and big money controlling the Democratic Party, compromising it.
Outperform Kamala Harris in her
Come on
district.
now.
Trump did,
Sure.
Trump did better
this.
than.
But here's my point. The New York, look no further than New York, where issues like cashless bail have been a disaster. Issues like sanctuary state status, congestion pricing. In districts like mine, where Democrats on paper should win big, they're losing. And so if the messenger is AOC, who, by the way, was originally from my district, she grew up in Yorktown, not the Bronx. If AOC is the face of the Democratic Party in swing districts all across this country, she will mobilize voters way more than Nancy Pelosi ever did.
Let me just...
Can you imagine AOC being the face of the Democratic Party? It's like, do you guys even know what happened during the election? I mean, where were you guys when the election was actually happening? Where were you? You clearly were not paying attention because no one believes AOC should be the face of the party. I gotta tell you, if I'm there, I'm gonna tell, that for those of you who don't know, that was Jamal Bowen. He was the guy who pulled the fire alarm and was never prosecuted for it. If memory serves, he was never prosecuted for it. He literally stopped an official proceeding of Congress and got away with it. Guy should be in jail. But I digress. He really thinks that the likes of Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and AOC should be the face of the party. Why? Well, they're young and charismatic. It's like, you're the reason, they are the reason you lost. How do you not understand that? It's just like, but guess what? I'm all for it. No, I'm all for it. You should make AOC the face of the party. In fact, Jamal, I think that's a good idea. Jamal, I think you're on to something. Because that was really the one issue. The far left of your party was really the one group that resonated with the American people. Yeah, it was those progressives that they had really had galvanized the American people. Yeah, you need to make, you forget about AOC, make Ilhan Omar the face of your party. I think that's a brilliant idea. Brilliant idea. Man, you would think these people were out to lunch. The entire campaign, they were out to lunch. And then we have those who are, I don't know how to describe it. You see, they hate Elon Musk because, well, orange man bad. And so now they are trying desperately to defend these people burning and Molotov cocktailing Teslas and dealerships and charging stations. I just showed you a guy who set himself on fire. Now he's looking at real prison time. They're still defending it. And I think Kevin O'Leary is well, he's going to give him a dose of reality.
For an American company to just be hated, for people to want it to not do well.
I think, go back to point one. When you...
Hang on. Is it okay to not hate or to not like a car or a manufacturer and a car maker? Is it okay? Well, of course it's okay, Abby. Nobody said it wasn't. You can get a sign and stand outside a Tesla dealership and march and yell and scream. In fact, it's your constitutional right. But that's not what people are doing. These are violent, unhinged leftists that are setting themselves on fire.
Set a car on fire, you should go to jail. You're a criminal.
Any car,
I don't think we have to
actually.
talk
Yeah,
about it
not
in
just
any other
Tesla.
context. And all those cars have cameras in them, and those dealerships have cameras. You're beyond being stupid when you do that. You're going to go to jail, and you now have a government that just got their mandate. They can't wait to find idiots that do this. You're going to spend 5 to 20 years in prison. If they get them on terrorism, which I think is a stretch, they will have no parole.
That's not a stretch, Kevin. You have a group of people who opened a website that are openly doxing people. And the only way that you're going to stop people from getting their personal information broadcast to the world is if they prove they sold their Tesla. That's political violence for a political end. That is the definition of terrorism. You are, because, I mean, you want people to be doxxed. You want people to see where these, owners are, the Tesla owners, so they can violently damage vehicles. And the only way they get out of it is if they meet these people's ridiculous demands. You have to go sell your car. Well, what do you do if that's the only car you got? It's probably, you got a Tesla. It's probably not the only car you got, but how does that make any sense? No. It is terrorism, Kevin.
No shortened sentence. They'll rot in hell in prison for 20 years. And frankly, as far as I'm concerned, that's okay. Breaking in, shooting a car, setting on fire, nothing to do with the politics, nothing to do with Tesla. You are a criminal, and you should go
what about the broader
to
question
jail.
about the protest factor?
Then she starts saying what about the broader issue of protesting? It's like, nobody said you couldn't protest. Pam Bondi never said you couldn't protest. You want to protest? Go ahead. No one's stopping you. But you don't have a constitutional right to firebomb a charging station. They can't get out of their own way. Which is why CNN is hot garbage. And here is the proof that Democrats, particularly the far left, they do not learn.
We are here together because an extreme concentration of power and corruption is taking over this country like never before. But we are also here today because we know that a better world is possible. I am here to remind you that we are not powerless in this moment. People are starting to put the pieces together. And ironically, the most divisive forces in our country are actually starting to bring more of us together. No matter who you voted for, no matter if you know all the right words to say, no matter your race, religion, gender identity, or status, no matter even if you disagree with me on a bunch of things. But if you are willing to fight for someone you don't know, you are welcome here. Here, everyone.
Did you hear that? You are welcome here. You are welcome. Maybe you disagree with me. That's AOC. You may disagree with me. But then she goes on.
One is valued. But I will say this. Those leaders on either side of the aisle who are willing to put their fellow Americans down so that they can get ahead or feel better about themselves, they may best find a home somewhere else. Because in this house, we stand together.
Everybody is welcome, except you, you, and you. Unbelievable. I guess if you are in this blue bubble, you think everyone agrees with you. All the right people agree with you. When you start talking about a person's sexual identity, where does that come from? AOC, you have a criteria. You're not inviting everyone. That's the problem. We have to agree with you, no matter what. Well, most Americans are not on board with you. By the way, this is the person that Jamal Bowman thinks that should be the face of the Democratic Party. If you really want to galvanize Americans to vote against the Democrats, make this woman the face of your party.
Because here we know that together without exception is the only way that we can win.
The only way you can win. It's as if November 5th, 2024 never happened. Donald Trump never won. They just go on and on and on and on. It goes on to Tim Walz. I guess they all think like Gavin Newsom. Nothing sticks to them. And the American people are dumb enough to vote for them. And by the way, I've already said this, but I'm putting it out there again. Typically, in midterm elections, the pendulum swings the other way. In this instance, because they won't back down on this ridiculous ideology, I don't think that's going to happen this time. I think that I think that the vast majority of Americans like what they see. They want these violent criminals that came here illegally to be booted out. But you have people like AOC who are championing these rogue judges, these activist judges who are blocking Trump at every avenue. thinking that this resonates with the American people, and it doesn't. Now, I'm going to be honest. If I've got a gal who she's recently came in illegally and she's like working. I mean, legitimately working, not taking a handout, working. No, I don't want free health care. I want to contribute. And she's got a kid that's trying to do the best they can in school. You know what? I am more than willing to give them a pathway to citizenship. But you are going to be on a strict, very strict American diet. And I don't mean food. You're going to be on a strict diet. There are certain things that you're going to have to meet, certain criteria. You got to be able to speak English. That's right. You got to turn in receipts from your job. And by the way, you got to be upfront and honest about the people that you're working with. Because I'm sure you understand, if you're an illegal, you shouldn't be working. So that actually, as I'm starting here, I'm thinking about it. How do we give her a pass? It's a legitimate question, because they shouldn't have hired her. If she is working, she shouldn't have been hired in the first place. But if she is earnest and she actually wants, we will level a penalty against your employer. Absolutely. Levy a penalty. But if she is a productive member, that she's contributing, sure. She's trying to get a better life for her kids. I don't want to kick her out. I don't. That maybe that bugs some of you. Absolutely no, you stay. But you're going to be on a strict diet. You're going to have to check in monthly. No, because the second the status changes, you're out. Now, you know why I could say something like that? Some of you still, you can't do that. What are you talking about? She's an illegal. I understand that. But if she really is earnest about earning a living, contributing to the American society, contributing to the tax base, sure. Okay. You're going to have a very, very tough time finding that person. That's why I can say that. Because those are far, few, and in between. Sorry. Most of the people that came over that border illegally were military-aged men. Sorry. That's just the truth. Okay, you didn't have a bunch of women that were looking for bread and milk. But if we do have a person and they want to earn their way, earn their keep, I'm perfectly fine with you staying. But I'm not a monster. Like I said, though, there's going to be some parameters. and yeah, you're going to have to earn your keep, and we're going to be checking up on you once a month. There will be a criteria, and your children cannot be running around. And by the way, I want to know who you're hanging out with. As the saying goes, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Well, for those of you who would like to know what cigar I am smoking, this is the Bone Shaker from... And I've had several of these, as you already know, and this is a great cigar. An amazing draw. Well constructed. I hope by now, if you hadn't had one by now, I hope you go to your local tobacconist and you grab one and check it out. You're not going to be disappointed. This is the Toro size. I believe it is 56 by 6. It's a beast of a cigar. You will not be disappointed. I need to make an announcement here. Hang on a second. As you can see at the bottom of your screen, weekdays on Rumble, the Stuart Allister edition streaming live, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, 12 Pacific. 9 a.m. Eastern, 12 Pacific. And I am going to be doing a live show, and I'm going to be doing it Monday through Friday. I hope you can tell your friends, join me on Rumble. If you don't have the Rumble app, please download it. Look for, the Stuart Allister edition, and join me. 12 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern, 9 a.m. Eastern. And yeah, you're going to have a good time. I can guarantee it. All right. That's it for now. If you like this video, smash that like button and subscribe. And if you're following me on Rumble, please press that follow button. And until the next time, God bless.